What you're seeing in the Western world is the math catching up with everybody. Okay, I want to be kind of clear on this. And I can't be in my garage because my garage has a generator going. It's noisy, and my whole house is in like total chaos because of the storm and what have you. A hurricane hit us and all that kind of shit. So, so you get this background. Anyway, what you're seeing is math catch up. If you understand how a Ponzi scheme works, and I know some of you do, for those of you who don't, let me just break it down briefly. A Ponzi scheme works like this. You offer somebody, hey, give me $100, and in 90 days, I'm going to give you $150. And then, for example, okay, and they're like, that's a great investment. My God, 50% for 90 days, that's a lot. So they do that, and if you get a bunch of people to do that, right, and then you give the first people in their return and stuff, and they keep reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. The theory is if you just keep it going long enough, that somehow it'll all work out. Now it won't. Ponzi schemes work only if you're adding people. What happens when you stop adding people? Now let's apply that to the broader economy. In the Western world, and about 93 countries that are in demographic decline right now. Let's apply that, okay? Ponzi schemes work if you're adding people. What are people not doing right now? They're not adding people, right? They're just not. So when you have, and I did a whole series on this where I tried to explain how this worked. The baby boomers are so named because it was a boom. It was an exception to the rule, compounded by people living longer and having easier lives, right? They're not having to expend all of their energy trying to survive. You follow? So, but they didn't have 7 kids each, right? My dad is one of 5. My mom is one of 8, I think, if I remember right. 7. My wife's mom is one of 9. And my wife's dad is one of 6, okay? How many of them had 7, 8, 9 kids each? I'm one of 1. My wife is one of 1. You follow? So that means you're not adding enough people to the back end of that to keep this Ponzi scheme going. Okay, this is what happens with something called compounding of interest. This is why there is no way to pay any of this stuff off. This is why your dollar is a debt instrument, by the way, and it's a mathematical certainty that it's going to lose its value because of this. Okay, it's a debt instrument. I don't give a shit what Dave Ramsey says. Every dollar, I know that you may pay cash for everything. That's great, and I think you should do that. I think most people probably should be paying cash for everything. And cash, I don't mean necessarily dollars. Cash just means, in the generic sense, it means having a no debt transaction. I don't want to get off into the weeds into that, but if you're paying cash for everything, that's fantastic. It doesn't change the fact that the dollar is still a debt-based instrument. So in order to create a dollar, somebody has to be willing to first borrow a dollar, okay? So there's this huge amount of debt, and it can never be paid back. It can never be paid back. There's no way. Because people are not going to have kids fast enough, which is, again, why the borders are wide open, which is why they will never be closed. Not in our lifetime, dude. I know Trump fans. I know you guys are all hoping against hope that they close the border and they deport all the illegals and they let the economy correct itself. That would be a fucking miracle if it happened. I don't think it will. I think that logistics suggest otherwise. That even if you, and I talked about this with Ryan Matta a while back, even if you were deporting 40,000 people a day, it would still take you something. That's a stadium of people every day. Every day, nonstop, 365, you never close, a stadium of people every single day. It still takes you like 4 odd years to, 3.5, 4 odd years to deport that many illegals. It ain't happening, okay? So that's why you have these Western countries scrambling to flood all these people into the country because they can't. But the problem is that they're flooding people in and they're paying them to do it. Right, so they're just creating more debt instruments. They're creating more dollars to do all of this, and they're creating pocketed inflation. Again, I'm not going into that in this video. I did other videos on that. You can go back and look for them. But it ends up creating this very distorted economy, and it will end up creating effectively a replacement economy. It will do that. Americans, they are attempting to replace you effectively because you're not having a bunch of kids. Okay, you're not keeping the Ponzi scheme going. Right? The Ponzi scheme collapses when you stop adding people. That's how it all works. And when you have your currency based on that. Now, how does it work like that? Because it's a debt-based instrument. And the compounding of interest, you will never get ahead of that. right? You will never get ahead of the compounding of interest. That's what makes the people who have lent out so much money so powerful. Okay? We're, the central bankers and what have you. Keep in mind, you eventually run out of everybody else's money. I know Margaret Thatcher said that, but she wasn't wrong, and she applied it to communism. But it doesn't just apply to communism. You understand? This is where a bunch of you guys don't understand this. I think a lot of you get too stuck in this weird left-right politics bullshit. I make fun of it all day long because for me it's fucking hilarious watching this shit. But let's be serious. Jokes aside, there's one thing that communism and capitalism have in common. One thing. What is it? We've already been over this. What's the one thing they have in common? Central banking. It's the one thing both systems have in common. They are both doomed to failure. They are always doomed to failure. They're always doomed to failure because they have central banking involved, which means that there's interest on debt and it can never, ever, ever be paid back because populations ebb and flow, right? Some seasons, let's say over the course of like a 50-year span, populations may do this, right? They may increase a little bit, right? Because people decide to have more kids and they're like, oh, hey, everything is more comfortable, and women want to have kids, right? Why do you think women are, not to get into this culture war dating horse shit, because I have no patience for that. But have you ever wondered, guys, right, seriously, why it is that these women are like, they're basically goddamn near naked walking around? They're trying to advertise, dude. It's a subconscious thing. It's lizard brain shit. They don't even know they're doing it. They think that they're owning the patriarchy by doing this. Dude, they're not. They're advertising. Every one of those fucking feminists, if Elon Musk popped up and said, I'm looking for a new wife, I choose you, feminism be fucking gone instantly out of their mind. They'd immediately want to be a housewife. Of course they would. Because they're after the security aspect of that. Women respond to security. Security, for those of you who don't know, is code for money. So why do you think you have all these girls that are like rending all of their garments and screaming at the clouds and shit like that? Where do you think all that shit comes from? It's women want children. They're desperately trying to get them pregnant. But they don't want just anybody to get them pregnant. They want an alpha to get them pregnant. Okay, remember, lizard brain shit. You really have to think like this stuff. Lizard brain shit. What's an alpha? That's somebody who brings security to the table. Most men don't have security. By the way, they never did. Most men in the West never had big money and giant houses and shit like that. All you delusional girls out there who are like, the average man should have, 2 yachts and jets and shit. Like, dude, that never was a thing. That was never a thing. That was always Hollywood. That was always hype. That was always advertisers, saying, buy this product and you're going to, crack open this beer and the Swedish bikini team is going to show up and enjoy, partying with you. That never fucking happened. Have you ever tried it? It never fucking happens. That's not real. It's a delusion that they get you to think like, okay? It's very cleverly crafted. I'm not picking on these people. These are very, very, very smart people that have made the observation of how people behave, okay? And people love their delusions like this. Women are no different than men on this. They love this delusion. But women have this expiration date that kind of happens biologically. You're not even arguing with me, dude. You're arguing with biology. Okay, you guys, all the feminists out there can be pissed off all you want, but you're not arguing with me. I didn't do this to you. To my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, I didn't do this to you. Okay, I didn't give you a time clock. Okay, so you've got all of these problems, and if people are not going to have kids, and then the governments, because they want to rule and own you, the so-called ruling class, they're going to replace you. They're going to find somebody who will. Okay. Now it's up to you to get your governments, because governments are instituted by men. They're supposed to be your government. You're the one who's supposed to be in control of this shit, yet you're not. I can't help you about that in this video, nor will I. I've already covered this on many occasions, and unfortunately, you're all going to wait on Jesus or something like that. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. So, hope that helps.